All right, let's do a little bit of ironing and we can talk about some important concepts. So I have serged this edge here and I am going to eventually be stitching right up this front. This will end up being the front of the garment. And so I ironed this one with the seam allowance pointing up. And then I am going to iron the other one with the seam allowance pointing down. And then that way, when I match the two up, I don't have an extra bulky spot right there where the two, so you pull it down right there where the two meet. So get that ironed. And then as long as I'm here, I can go ahead and iron my pocket, and it doesn't really change anything in the long run because the minute you, if I really wanted it to stay nicely smooth, I would put an extra set of stitches there, but you can encourage it over a lifetime. And then in the case of this one, I don't need to think about the up down, I just need to pick a direction and stick to it, because this is going to hook into the middle. And so I'm just going to go ahead and iron that pointing down and do the same for this one here. All right, and then let's see. Yeah. Whoa. Wow, that was dramatic. I'll probably edit that out. All right. Okay, and so now I'm going to go ahead and put in the next set of seams, which includes, and I'll go ahead and pin them in so you can really see them. It includes this one here that starts at the bottom of the armhole and proceeds down to the pocket. And when I pin it together here at the pocket, and then you'll see it's already stitched over here, but I can pin it at least one more time down at the bottom of this curve. Now you can see that this back bit is actually just a bit longer than the front bit, and this happens sometimes. In this case, it probably would be better to have the extra designees be in the front as opposed to the back, but this likely happened because I made this out of two pieces and maybe slightly miscalculated. And so you can see that I'm actually just stretching the fabric just a little bit to match them up. This is called designees, and it doesn't really bother me to have the designees going in one direction or another, but this is the reason that I actually ironed this just a bit before, because I want to make sure that I get this side so that it's going in the same direction as this side needs to go. And then while I'm doing that, I'll also go ahead and get this piece here that comes from over the shoulder, and basically this allows me to finish creating the armhole. And so if I had made this out of two pieces, I would have a second seam that I needed to make right here, but I actually put that seam all the way down here in order to give this kind of a, you remember that the sleeves are with the skull fabric as well, so it'll end up sort of look like I'm wearing a little skull kind of fabric jacket. All right, and so I'm going to repeat that same activity on the other side, and then last but not least, I will take the appropriate edge of the, I need to make sure and iron this. I did have it pointing down. You remember me giving you a lesson the other day about how to make sure that you have these line up, right? And I didn't do that here. But fortunately for me, it is fine to have this be just a little bit narrower right in here. And so I'll actually just trim that to straighten it out and trim that to straighten it out. But this whole piece should have been moved up a little bit. That was my mistake for not making the swallowtail a little bit deeper, right? And so you can see that it's not quite deep enough there. But then I will actually take this whole piece and attach it here to the back. And in this case, I like to pin it once at the top and then down at the bottom. And there again, it may be the very subtlest of swallowtails, but I'll look for that before I actually basically kind of pull it out all the way through the middle to make sure that it's evenly distributed. And so this is what I mean about sort of fixing that by kind of splitting the difference in the seam allowance there so that I can come back up to that edge, right? And then I'll end up trimming off a little bit right there. Okay, and so I will come back to you in a couple of minutes when I have this all set. All right, so now you can see the result. The result is that you can't even tell now that it was a little bit extra. So on both sides, there's maybe the tiniest bit where we see the extra pink, but it was caught up, right? And all of the extra gray was trimmed off. And if we look at it from this side, it's a nice smooth line. So if that hadn't been in a spot where I knew that that little bit of extra wouldn't really change the fit, obviously I would have started over, taken this piece off and that piece and rematched them so that I didn't have that slight mismatch. But in this case, I'm glad I had that accident so that I could show you what we could do about it.